here in the Sierra Desert in St. Louis. Why I retired at 38, and so can you. By realizing the greatest account that we have, the greatest investment account that is available to humankind. And I'll talk on that greatest account. We know the bottom line is you got to feed yourself. You got to provide and put food on the table for your family. We know the quality of insurance, the fact of planning ahead. If you're going to build something, see the end goal, make sure you have the wherewithal to complete the project. So we have to look ahead, our children's education, preparing ourselves for later in life, grandchildren. And there are some companies, maybe not as much as a previous generation, where you can work 20, 30, 40 years, rely on a pension. Maybe nowadays not so much a pension, but maybe it's still a loyal environment. Maybe there's still good retirement benefits, and it's something that you can at least, even with the unknowns, at least attempt to be there, hopefully and ideally long term. And that is the classic retirement view. I work, then I'll rest and play. And in today's culture, post, in the new millennium, if you will, with the tech boom, the .com, the working remote era, we've seen a lot of the younger generation of the workforce be a little bit confused between some of the value systems that we admire from the past, but yet trying to make sense of some of the current economical and business environments. And that could be anything: nonprofit, profit, sports, ministry, small business, Fortune 500, the whole gamut. So what I encourage people to do is, if you're not on a strong, clear pathway of a career with a corporation that you can trust, or maybe a single corporation that you own, really the best mentality for this coming up workforce is to view themselves with an entrepreneur mindset. Even if you're not creating and sourcing the companies or the capital, but for you as a worker, as a career-minded person, to view yourself in that entrepreneur mindset can help understand and discern a lot of that changing workforce, that changing economical environments that we see from one generation to this current. Now, when we talk about the greatest account, and the reason why, at 38, I am beginning to operate really how I want to operate, is because when we realize the greatest account that we have is not a 401k, it's not, a certain account here, a Roth, et cetera, or my trust in some type of brick and mortar. And again, hey, if you've got a great company set up and you can go the long haul, do it. But there's a lot of not only Americans, but again, this generation of workforce who's trying to filter through these dynamics that we are in presently. And no matter what situation you're in, no matter what line of work you're in, no matter what age you are, the biggest thing that you can realize in life is that your greatest account, and this is why I'm able to shift into really a retirement mode, is influence. And now it doesn't mean you just wake up and all of a sudden, hey, I can just float on a yacht and everything comes my way. No, that you would be missing the point. The point, though, is when you begin your career with absolute service, absolute giving mentality, absolute pouring it out and helping others, and you build a legacy of mentorship, putting your arm around other people, helping people, doing the right thing, putting your, God, and then first, and then your family first, and then down the list. And you're giving and you're pouring out yourself, and you're also allowing yourself to be teachable and mentored. What you're doing is you're building a climate where that influence is building into an account, into a trust fund that you can then pull from. During one of the most excruciating times I had in my life, when I was facing a huge transition that took me a long time to recover from, I remember in a training session, hearing a teaching by Bishop Bernard about influence and how that is our greatest, really the greatest thing that we have. And that has stuck with me so strong. Another thing that I remember hearing from a very personal mentor to me, Bishop Hanscom, was during a very dark time, he said 2 words to me. He said, "Be steady." Now, if you take those concepts of the power of influence and the concept of being steady, you have the ingredients for very, very powerful, sustainable outcomes. Now, influence, you got to be careful with it though. So just like a checking account, if you're always pulling from it, always what can I get out of this mentality? Hey, I'll do this for you, but I want this in return mentality. You're basically giving to receive. When you realize that you cannot outgive unselfishness, you cannot outgive God, you cannot outgive the original fruit of, I'm doing the right thing, this is who I am, and I'm not, trying to get some, result from you. When you're truly in that mode where you're giving of yourself in a leadership quality to help and propel other people, you gotta be careful, because if I have $20 in the checking account and I keep pulling from it, I'm not gonna have any money. So what happens is a lot of people get frustrated is because they've given so much to whether it be a nonprofit organization or people or other leaders or companies, and then they're having a very, very hard time because they're trying to pull back from it, and they're feeling depleted. It's because their virtue account is run dry, because they're expecting things in areas to come back to them that was only meant to really give out. Because you got to trust the way it's going to come back to you. I might be doing good to this chair, but my goal is not to receive back from that chair. And if I keep doing good to that chair and other things around me, another chair is going to come and take care of me. And the organization that I founded a couple years ago, the whole premise of it is leveraging resources, which are people. I'm not the most knowledgeable in every category, I know that, but I have, internationally, whether it be, athletics, business, or ministerial, anything, I am saturated with so many great contacts and great resources that I don't spend my influence very often, but when I do, I know there are contacts and things that I can be a part of at any time, because there's just people waiting to give back to me. And I don't say that in a cocky or arrogant way, but what I'm saying is when we realize the value of our bank account is influence, and you're careful about making withdrawals from that account, and you do things with proper intent, and you do things slowly and in a sacred format, you can position yourself even before it's your time to be able to be in a position where you can essentially speed dial any contact or resource you need at any time, and you can make something happen. You can bring an A and a B together. You can bring it all together. Now, one of the huge things that I don't necessarily, I get the mentality. I've coached I've been in sales. I understand, it's this concept of you never quite obtain. You never attain. You're always searching. You're always seeking. And I get that concept. I get it in a spiritual sense. I get it in a natural sense. I get it in the athletic and the business sense. But fundamentally, whatever, I've always almost shut down my attention when I start to hear that stuff conversated. Almost like it's like an echo in the leadership world where everyone just says it. Everyone just says, don't ever act like you've obtained, just keep pushing and become a better leader. And I'm not trying to mimic or anything, because that is great content and I get it. But where I feel like a different angle is there's actually a benefit from realizing that I have arrived. And instead of always being in the seeking mode that I have to arrive, it's like someone waving a brownie in front of me and I just can never reach it. I'm really hungry and I want a treat. I keep reaching. And it's like, hope deferred makes the heart sick. And that's why it's hard to maybe sometimes see sustainable results, is because I view things as a past tense. So in other words, it's the only obtaining to really do is to clarify the foundation of your identity. Once you obtain that and attain that, it's past tense. So then what you can do is just become living a worry-free, fruitful, beneficial life. You take the punches as they come, mountains become flat, valleys become full, and you realize how to just roll with it, and you're not beaten down up and down so much. So, there's a very, very strong so here's the thing. Again, it's beautiful. If you can work to 55 and retire and sit on your yacht for the next 20 years in good health, that's awesome. But it's not going to happen for everyone. So what I'm encouraging us to do is you can retire at 55 and still be absolutely bound in your mind and in your emotional structure. And again, I'm not talking to 25-year-olds to be lazy and play video games all day. I'm talking about grinding it out, building relationships, giving into people, viewing yourself as almost an independent entrepreneur, no matter what corporation you're part of, no matter what business structure, no matter what career path. And when you do that, when you build your own individualized legacy of leadership and entity, if you will, again, you don't have to start a LLC to do this. It's just your own personhood, your own presence. That's when you're free to really operate. That's why, I can say, well, I had X amount of experience in business. I had X amount of experience in athletic coaching or scouting, or X amount of experience in ministry or pastoring. I can culminate all those experiences, but the day that I realize what that is, the bank account that's been built up for 20 years of influence, and once I stop and acknowledge that identity, boom, that's really what retirement is, because now you have the freedom just to go do what you want. You're not bound by people's opinions. You're not bound, yes, you got to still have work. Yes, you got to find a way to put a food on the table, but the mentality and the emotional freedom, because when you get that type of emotional freedom, that's when you can have the creativity and the wherewithal, to start a business that runs for itself, or partner with someone else, or do this thing. And all these things that come at you, they can actually start to happen in your life, and you can experience the ease and freedom of living to everyone else's standards, the workforce's standards, America's standard, everyone else's standard. And you can live in the freedom. And it's a powerful concept when it says, cease from your own works and enter into his rest. So in other words, you have the ability to truly retire when you realize the input that you have put into the account of influence, and you cease from all these vain labors that are just walking circular, same problems every 9 months, same situations, same subjectivity to people's opinions. And when you free yourself and enter into his rest and truly, live out that destiny from day to day, man, that's a beautiful thing. So we believe in you. Happy retirement.